مشاهدينا الأعزاء، أهلا وسهلا بكم في برنامجكم اسأل المدير. هذا البرنامج الذي أعد خصيصا من أجلكم ليكون حلقة التواصل فيما بينكم وبين إدارة الأونروا. وكما تعرفون بإمكانكم دوما التواصل معنا على الرابط الذي سيظهر أمامكم على الشاشة portal.onrua.ps. في حلقة اليوم سنتحدث عن بعض المواضيع الهامة والتي أثارت جدلا في الفترة الأخيرة، من بينها موضوع التمويل الذي حصلت عليه الأونروا لبرنامج خلق فرص العمل، مشاريع إعادة الإسكان ومواضيع أخرى ذات علاقة. كالعادة نود أن نرحب معنا هنا في الاستوديو بالسيد روبرت تيرنر، مدير عمليات الأونروا في غزة. Mr. Turner, welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Turner, UNRWA has often been talking about the shortage in funding for its programs, which affected its different programs, including the job creation program. But 2 weeks ago, you were at a press conference and you spoke of getting new funds for the job creation program. Does this mean that UNRWA doesn't have this problem of underfunding anymore, particularly on the GCP?
Yeah. I wish that were the case, and it's partially the case. It's important to understand that UNRWA has three distinct budgets. One is our general fund, which we pay for most of the education and the healthcare. We start this year with a $70 million shortfall for the 5 fields, which is serious, but it's actually better than the situation was last year. Then we have our construction projects, which are all going quite well and for which we have quite a bit of funding. Then our emergency appeal, which is mostly our food assistance and our job creation program. It was really fortunate that we have some good news this year in that we've received money from the European Commission so that we can expand our job creation program. That's money that's earmarked for JCP. So whereas last year, through funding primarily from the UK government and the Belgians, we were able to provide 3,000 positions that benefited 10,000 refugees. This year we'll be able to do 8,000 positions, which will benefit about 20,000 refugees. So it's almost doubling, about approximately a doubling of that program. Mm-hmm. However, that doesn't mean that the financial situation overall has improved. For our emergency appeal, based on how much we've spent last year and how much we expect to need to spend this year, we're looking at about a $10 to $12 million shortfall. What that means is likely the same thing as last year. Come around June or July, when we look at our funding picture, is that we'll probably be saying that we don't have the money to procure the last round of food, and we'll have to go back to donors and try to find that money. And frankly, in 2012, if it had not been for the conflict last November, we would not, which brought in a bit of extra money, the distribution that's going on right now, the basket would have been cut because we didn't have enough funding for it. So the JCP money is great news. We're thrilled that we're able to expand the program this year because it does a lot of good, but we're certainly not out of the woods financially.
In a related subject to this, we have received a question from Ahmed, one of the refugees in Gaza, who says that in order to get a job, he's a new graduate, mm-hmm. and he says that in order to get a job, you need to have some work experience. And as a new graduate, he needs this sort of experience, yeah. which we usually used to provide on the JTP. Now, we have a number of new students, new graduates who are seeking experience through the JTP. For them, the major question is, why does it take so long to get a JTP opportunity?
Well, the simple fact is that demand dramatically outstrips supply. We only have a few hundred positions for the graduate training program, and there are literally thousands of students graduating from universities every year. So the program will be expanded this year from last, so we'll be able to offer more opportunities. But the reality is that there are so many graduates and so few jobs that we would never be in an opportunity, in a position where we can offer everyone a job. So we're happy that we're going to be able to offer more, but we recognize that it's not enough.
Still in JCP issue, people usually apply for a JCP opportunity, but some of them say that they have to wait for years to get an opportunity. And at the same time, they say that other applicants who apply, they get an opportunity sooner than others.
Right.
What's the criteria that UNRWA follows in broader terms? What's the criteria that UNRWA follows to employ people on JCP?
The duration or how long you have to wait, again, is a supply and demand issue. So we have 3 categories of JCPs. We have the unskilled, skilled, and professional. And based on which positions are required or which positions have been funded, so for example, this European Commission funding, they have told us, that 1,000 positions go to support the private sector, 1,000 for each of the next 3 years, and about 1,500 are for supporting basic services, but that's only for 1 year. So what we've done is we allocate the positions based on the need, and then we go to the database of applicants, and primarily on a first-come, first-served basis, we then apply people to those positions. And we have 180,000 applicants in our system right now, of which 140,000 qualify for positions. The worst off category for waiting was unskilled women. I can remember meeting a refugee woman last year who'd been going to the JCP office every month for 4 years waiting for her position. And she was going to be another 3 years before she would come up. Now, fortunately, with this new funding, we should be able to offer a lot more opportunities, so those waiting lists will go down. But again, as much as we're thrilled that we've expanded the program, it's not enough, and people are still going to be disappointed probably in how long they have to wait for positions.
Still in the same area of JCP, some refugees were asking why JCP contracts are only made for a short period of time. Why UNRWA cannot offer them longer term employment on this particular program?
Yeah. The JCP is set up, I think, specifically to be a short-term intervention for a couple of reasons. One is so that more people get an opportunity, because this is, the work experience is part of this, and particularly the graduate training program and the professional category. But particularly for the unskilled and the skilled workers, really it's about job training, it's about skill sets, it's about experience, it's about dignity, but it's also about cash injection into the family. And so the purpose is really to get as many families as possible benefiting from these opportunities. And they're not meant to be jobs. They're not meant to be careers. They are meant to be short-term opportunities, and that's what they'll always be limited to.
Well, you probably have answered the coming question, but let me ask it again about the duration for the JCP contracts. What are the durations, the different durations on the different categories? And is there a salary range for these short-term employment?
Most of the positions are unskilled, and so that's guards, that's school attendants, etc. And those positions are 3 months in duration, and the salary is about $10 a day. And then we have skilled positions, which would be, for example, working in factories or in food processing or other things. And those are normally 6 months and normally pay about $14 a day. And then we have a small number of the professional category, engineers, medical officers, etc., who are normally 12 months and pay about $19 a day.
We had a question from Raghda, one of the refugees in Gaza, who says that how could JCP help her? She's a fresh graduate. If her specialization, her major at university is not one of the areas where UNRWA programs are being implemented, is there any chance for her?
To be honest, it's fairly limited. As I say, just to some extent, the positions that are created, some of them are dictated by the donors, and the rest are dictated by need. What does UNRWA need? What does the community need? And again, we're trying to give people experience and we're trying to give people skills, but overall we're trying to get cash into the economy and give families an opportunity to have some economic freedom. So I'm afraid it won't cater to everyone's needs, and that was never its purpose.
To move to the other subject where UNRWA had made a very good achievement, tremendous achievement, which is the rehousing and reconstruction projects. Lately, and at the same press conference, you, Mr. Turner, had announced that we have already moved the people in Rafah, the owners of the demolished houses, into the Saudi project phase 1. Can you tell us a bit more about this particular project? And at the same time, we understand that there will be a phase 2 of this project. When is UNRWA planning to start the phase 2?
Again, the reconstruction and the housing component in schools, et cetera, and healthcare centers is a part that's gone very well. As you know, probably the original plan has been to construct 100 new schools 10,000 homes and to do, I think it was supposed to be 2 health centers. We've already done 5 health centers. By the end of this year, we will have done about 60 new schools handed over to the education department, and we have an additional projects waiting with the COGAT to be approved so that we can construct more schools, and we have funding already for 22 more schools. So that part is going very well, as is the rehousing. So last year, the Dutch rehousing component was opened in Khan Yunis. That was about 230 families. And then since then, the Japanese housing also in Khan Yunis, I think is 450 houses. And then phase 1 of the Saudi was handed over just before the end of the year, which is another approximately 750 units. So overall, there's about 7,500 refugees got new homes last year, which is great, fantastic news. Most of those, particularly from Rafah, were families whose homes had been destroyed either during the demolitions along the Philadelphia corridor or as a result of Operation Cast Lead. Saudi Phase 2 is underway and going very well and should be completed by the end of this year. That'll be about another 950 housing units. And the Emirati project, which had been frozen in Khan Yunis, it was 60% complete and then frozen since 2007. That is now still ongoing, so those families will also be able to get homes. So about 9,000 more refugees will get homes this year. We also are negotiating with the Islamic Development Bank a large-scale project to do self-help shelter, which will finally take care of the rest of the caseload from Cast Lead. Those have been waiting now for almost 6 years, or sorry, for 4 years for this assistance. So that's great news, and we're very thankful for the support we've received, particularly from the Saudi Fund for Development, from the Islamic Development Bank, the Japanese, the Dutch, and the Emiratis.
Indeed, indeed. But the understanding among people is that these 3 housing projects are meant only for the owners of the demolished houses during the different military operations. Some people were asking if people on UNRWA SSMP, or generally known as the special hardship cases, are these families eligible to be rehoused in these new projects?
There is a component of all of the program that are from special hardship cases or other cases. All of the families for the shelters that are under construction now have already been identified. So they're already on the list and they're just waiting for their house to be complete.
In a related subject about schools in particular and the reconstruction of new schools, some mothers have sent us some queries if their children are going to be moved to new schools where there is some sort of overcrowding in some of the classrooms, and are asking when is UNRWA going to construct new schools, when our kids can be moved to these schools.
There's 10 schools being handed over right now, in addition to about 12 that were handed over last year to the education department. It's not going to change class size because the class size is already set by the number of teachers. What it's going to do is going to offer us the opportunity to reduce double shifting. So 10 schools that are currently double shifted now will be able to come single. So there'll be 20 single shifted schools instead of 10 double shifted schools, which provides a much better learning environment for the children. They can go to school in the mornings, they don't have to go to school in the afternoons. But it doesn't affect the class size per se, which is not dictated by the number of buildings.
To another subject related, which is after the war, after the conflict in November, a number of people, of refugees, were asking is if UNRWA is having a plan right now to help them whose houses were demolished or were damaged. What's UNRWA plan to help these people?
We've provided short-term assistance in the form of plastic sheeting, etc. We're doing rental subsidy for some that have had to leave their homes because of damage. We completed the shelter assessment of refugee homes. Probably 270 were either destroyed or heavily damaged, and about 7,000 were lightly damaged. We've taken the completed assessment, we've turned that into a project proposal, we've submitted that to donors here in the region, and we're confident, or at least hopeful, that we will receive positive indications of funding. As soon as that's received, we'll implement a self-help shelter program as we've done in the past. We're hopeful that it's not going to take 4 years this time, but until we receive the funding, there's not much more we can do now. But we are hopeful that we'll hear something positive and hopefully quite soon.
Also, in a related subject of the post-conflict, where some mothers were much worried about their children and their psychological status. One of the mothers sent us writing that since the war, my child has been having many difficulties. He has nightmares often and he wets his bed. What psychological support is UNRWA giving to children in its schools or among the refugees in general?
Of course, we have our community mental health program where we have counselors in most of the schools and all of our health clinics. I would encourage that mother and any others whose children, or it doesn't have to be the children, any member of the family who's having problems, to please seek out one of these counselors. What we've also been able to do is we've received funding to expand the program temporarily. So for this semester, we'll be adding 200 additional counselors in the health clinics and the schools. And we're also putting 500 support teachers into the education system for this semester, specifically to help support the classes, to help support the children and try to help monitor and refer children that are having specific problems. And what we've seen is roughly a doubling or more of the number of cases of psychological trauma coming forward. But I mean, I think the big message is if there's a problem, seek help. So please go to the health clinic, try to see the counselors. They're trained, they can help, they do help. So please take advantage of that service.
Also related to the war issue and children who were traumatized, does UNRWA have any additional programs for children?
Yeah, we're very happy to be able to say that we'll be having a summer program for children again this summer after having canceled the summer games last year because of financial difficulties. It's going to be smaller in scale. Children won't be too disappointed. It'll be 1 week instead of 2. We've dramatically cut back the budget to make it fit our current financial situation. So no trips to the beach, no uniforms for the kids. We're not buying clothes, no Guinness World attempts. It's really just focusing on kids, safe place to have fun, be kids, provide psychosocial support, life skills support. So there'll be 2 sessions before Ramadan and 1 session after Ramadan. It's creating, we use our job creation program, our JCP, so we'll be creating 1,800 temporary positions, almost all of which will go to university graduates to help us to do the programs. And we're really excited that we're able to bring this back.
Well, at the end of the day, we're giving some good news to the people, which we hope that they will take the benefit of. Mr. Turner, I would like to thank you very much once again for being with us.
Thank you.
مشاهدينا الأعزاء، في ختام هذه الحلقة أتمنى أن نكون قد وفقنا في الإجابة على بعض الأسئلة التي قمتم بطرحها علينا. أشجعكم مرة أخرى على زيارة موقع الوكالة على الرابط portal.unrwa.ps. قوموا بطرح الأسئلة ونحن سنرفعها إلى مدير عمليات الأونروا في غزة السيد روبرت تيرنر للإجابة عليها. في نهاية هذه الحلقة، هذه ميلينا شاهين تحييكم وإلى اللقاء.